What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to Mile High Misfits. In today's episode, I wanted to give you guys my top 10 preventative maintenance tips for your C5 Corvette. These cars need a little bit of love to keep them running efficiently, and so there's a little bit of work involved, but I promise you guys, if you guys follow these tips, you're gonna save a lot of money and a lot of headache. But also make sure to stick around because the final tip on this list is one that not a whole lot of people know about, but it's gonna help you out a lot. Before we get into the video, I want to let you guys know that we now have some shirts here at Mile High Misfits. So if you guys want one of the Millennial Paycheck Boomer Taste C5 Corvette shirts, or if you guys want one of the New Edge Mustang Boosting My Ego 1 PSI at a time shirts, you guys can order these through the Instagram page. I'm going to post the link below. It's going to be in the comments section. So you guys can order one of these shirts through our Instagram page. They're going to be $25 each. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Number one on this list is to make sure you spray out the fins on your radiator. A lot of you guys already know this, but these cars breathe from the bottom. So air travels up here through this valence here, and it goes into your radiator, which is kind of slanted in the car like that. So basically what happens is when that air gets sucked up there, a lot of times leaves, dirt, and other debris can get sucked up as well. As you guys can see from the front of the car, I've already got some debris and other gunk in there that really needs to be cleaned out. And I cleaned this thing out not too long ago, probably a few months ago. So that'll tell you guys how quickly buildup occurs. And obviously when this buildup happens, your car isn't going to be cooling as efficiently because air is not going to be traveling through the fins of the radiator like it's supposed to. So I recommend either using a power washer or compressed air to spray out the fins of the radiator. And I would do this every single time that you do an oil change just to make sure that you don't have any debris in there. I mean, you're going to have the car up in the air on jack stands anyways, so you might as well just spray it out and save yourself some trouble. So the second thing on this list is to make sure to clean out your rain udders. So under your wiper cowl, you're going to have 3 udders on the driver's side and 1 on the passenger side. So that means there's 4 udders in total. You want to make sure to clean out all the junk from those. So these rain udders are basically what's going to direct your water down through the car after it drains off of your windshield. So basically what happens is in crappy weather conditions and rainy weather conditions, you're going to have leaves and other kind of debris and dirt go through those udders. And because of how they're engineered, they're not going to allow those leaves to fall through. And so they get stuck and collect in there, and it can cause all kinds of issues when it comes to flooding in your interior. And it can also mess up your wiper motors. So basically what you want to do is you want to reach down in here, and your first one is right here. You just reach in there, pull it out, and it looks like this. So you want to just check inside of there, make sure there's no dirt or any other crap that's built up in there that's clogging it, and you can just push it right back in, and you're good to go. So on the driver's side, you're going to have the 3 udders. So the first one is here, the second one is about here, and then the third one is somewhere around this area. So you're going to have to really reach back there to get this one. But once you pull those out, you can clean them out and then reinstall them. On the passenger side, the udder is located right behind the battery, so you're going to need to remove the battery, and then the udder is much longer on this side, so it's about this area here. It actually reaches all the way down to about this area on the car, so you're going to need to pull out that entire assembly to clean it, and then reinstall it, and then reinstall the battery. Number 3 is to make sure you keep an eye on your harmonic balancer. So when it comes to the harmonic balancer for the C5 Corvette, you're going to notice how close it is to your steering rack. So the harmonic balancer is 2 pieces, and those 2 pieces are held together by a thin layer of rubber. And so basically what the goal of the harmonic balancer is to minimize the torsional resonance of your crankshaft. What happens is over time, this rubber begins to deteriorate and loosen, and that causes a wobble in the harmonic balancer. These failures are common in the C5 Corvette, and they can catastrophically damage your steering rack or your oil pan. So every once in a while when the car's running, make sure to look at your harmonic balancer and make sure you're not getting any serious wobbles. Number 4 on this list is to occasionally check your electrical grounds. After so many miles, the C5 Corvette is known to have corrosion and loose electrical grounds, which can cause major issues with your C5 Corvette. As you guys can see from this illustration here, there are 9 electrical grounds on the body of the C5 Corvette. So if you're having any electrical issues at all, make sure to check these out. Number 5 is to make sure that your battery is not leaking any acid. The majority of cars on the road have lead acid batteries, and these batteries can leak acid over time. With most cars, this is not a big deal. However, with the C5 Corvette, there is a harness that goes right under the battery that goes straight to your PCM. So if any of this acid leaks onto that harness and corrodes it, it's going to cause major issues for your PCM and can fry your car. So make sure that you're occasionally checking under your battery to make sure it's not leaking and that your harness is okay. You can buy a closed cell battery so this issue doesn't occur anymore, but I like to use what the car came with personally. So make sure to keep this on your list of items to service regularly. Number 6 on the list is to do your oil change properly. And when I say that, there's 2 things that you need to keep in mind. The first is to jack up the car properly by using these jack pads that you see right here. So under the car, there's these little slots, and basically what you want to do is you want to stick this puck underneath and twist, and that will lock this into place. So then you have a place to put your jack when you want to jack it up. If you don't use these jack pads, you can cause damage to your frame on your C5 Corvette, and this damage is irreversible. The second part to this is when you're doing your oil change, make sure to jack up the rear of the car higher than the front end of the car. We do this because the drain plug is on the front of the motor instead of the back. So if you jacked up your car in the front like you do normally, all of that oil is going to go to the back of the pan and it's not going to drain entirely. So by having the rear end higher than the front end, all of that oil is going to drain out the front and then you won't have to worry about having any collections of old oil in your pan. Now, number 7 is to make sure that you change out your fluids at the correct intervals. Just because you don't drive your Corvette doesn't mean that you don't need to change out your fluids. Every car on the road is going to have intervals at which all the fluids should be changed. So here's a couple of the ones that you need to watch out for on your C5 Corvette. So make sure to always change these out according to GM specifications. Now, number 8, this is one that a lot of people miss, and that is to drive your Corvette. Now, say it with me, guys. Lack of use is worse than abuse. If you don't drive the car, your fluids break down, gas gums up, rubbers begin to deteriorate, and the soul of the car starts to die. Make sure you take her out on the road to stretch her legs as often as you can because these cars deserve to be on the road, guys. That's what they're made for. You might think that keeping the car in the garage all the time is saving it from any kind of damage or wear and tear, anything like that. But honestly, guys, keeping the car in the garage all the time and never driving it is actually doing worse for your car, and it's breaking down those components at a much faster rate. So make sure that you're driving these cars because, guys, seriously, it does a lot of damage if you don't. Number 9 on the list is one that you really don't hear about too often, and that is to lubricate your door hinges. When you're lubricating your door hinges, make sure to not use WD-40, use marine lube instead because this is actually going to hydrate and last a lot longer than WD-40 will. So the hinges and the supports are both made of metal, but the door is made of fiberglass. So the hinges, and especially this roller down here at the bottom, these over time will begin to corrode if they get too dried out and get too much gunk in there, and basically that'll cause it to bind up and it makes it super hard to open up your door. And you might be thinking, that's not a big deal. I'm a strong guy, so it's okay. But that's where you're wrong. Because of all the force that you're putting on the door to get it to open, because it's fiberglass where it meets the hinge, it can begin to crack. And obviously cracking fiberglass is not what we want, so always make sure to lubricate your door hinges. So we're going to move on to number 10 in just a second, but before we do that, I want to let you guys know if you are not subscribed to the channel yet and you're finding this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like as well. It really helps out the channel and it's completely free, so help us to continue to make content like this, and we appreciate you guys very much. Finally, number 10 is to use Techron in your fuel system and also fill up your fuel before half a tank. So in the C5 Corvette, you have 2 fuel tanks, so at half a tank, one is completely dry. The left tank contains the electric fuel pump that supplies the fuel to the engine, and the right tank has a pump which transfers fuel from the right tank to the left tank. The pump in the right-hand tank has no moving parts, and it's not really a pump. It's more of a siphoning device that uses fuel pressure from the left-hand pump to start a siphon that transfers fuel from the right-hand tank to the left-hand tank. When the car is showing half a tank, the right tank is empty and the left tank is completely full. The sensors in the tanks estimate how much gas you have left in the car by reading full or empty on both of the tanks. And because of this, it can start reading full or half a tank intermittently. Because of this, I like to fill it before half a tank for 2 reasons. The first of which is because I don't want to run the right tank dry. And secondly, if your right tank isn't transferring to the left tank properly, then that means that half a tank is actually going to be your empty point because the right tank is full of fuel and it can't get it over to the left tank. So technically, at half a tank, you could be running out of fuel without even knowing it. On top of this, if you use Techron in your fuel system every 2,000 miles, this is going to help your fuel system components from getting gummed up, and it should help these components last longer. So long story short, guys, make sure to take care of the fuel system in your C5 Corvette because these things tend to have some issues. So there you have it, guys. Those are my top 10 preventative maintenance tips for the C5 Corvette. If you guys think I missed anything, or if there's any other tips that you guys have for your C5 Corvette, make sure to leave it in the comments below because I'd love to read them. But that does it for this week, guys. If you enjoyed the content for today, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future content, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.